guys, I've taken a break from the work day. I'm a watch dealer, just really to fill you in on what exactly is going on in the watch market today. Are Rolex prices crashing? Audemars Piguet, Patek Philippe, are they falling? Yes, indeed they are, but it's not particularly a crash as such. What we've got is an economy that here in the UK is worsening, so it's becoming difficult to buy things with the cost of living going up, fuel prices, other household bills as well, heating, etc. So what's happened really is we've seen a 3 or 4 month sustained massive increase in Rolex prices, the most on trend Audemars Piguet, Patek Philippe, Richard Mille watches continually rise and rise by quite a hefty amount, 10% month on month since the turn of the year 2022. So what we've had really is 3 months worth of growth that was what I always considered to be unsustainable. There was no way that that could persist. Quite frankly, there's no market in the world which grows by 10 to 20% month on month. It had to stop somewhere, basically. So that's what's happened. Growth has stopped, and it stopped really around about the end of February, March time. So, who are speculators? They are basically the market players who have got quite a bit of disposable income, and over the last few months was watching the trends in the market. Watches like the day-date olive go up by 60% since November last year. And those are the guys who basically bought a case of those, or a case of Hulks, or both. Root beers was another one which trended for quite a while in solid gold or two-tone. And so the speculators bought 10 or 12 of them, put them away in the safe, just because they were guaranteed to keep going up and up in value. And it was easy money for them. It was easy money for them because it was there, sitting in their vault, accumulating 10% month on month. So what happened? March came, prices stopped rising. People started getting itchy feet with the increase of cost of living to actually go out and spend massive amounts of money on these fine watches that we all come to love. Now, that triggered the speculators basically to panic, because they've got, and it's not just individuals, it's also dealers that I know. So I'm a watch dealer, and I've come across several people locally who've got big businesses, and they themselves actually kept in their safe a case full of, one example, green dial Daytonas. The speculators then panicked, went to the market to basically try and offload all of their stock. And what happened? What happened is it increased the supply on the market overnight. And as with anything in economics, supply and demand dictates that if you have excess supply that infiltrates the market overnight, then prices are going to fall because the demand hasn't followed that excess supply that's all of a sudden come. So that's what happened. Prices stopped, speculators flooded the market with watches that they weren't intending to keep as an investment, and that's the difference. There are investors. Now, I always preach here at Beat the Waitlist that watches can be investments. You know, we've seen clients of ours buy watches, keep them for a year or two, they're able to sell them at 15, 20, 30% profit. And that's great, because when we talk about watches as investments, what we always preach is you want to really hold your watch for at least a year. Speculators, on the other hand, as with any other market, are guys that just want to make a quick buck. So guys who want to flip and want to benefit from what we call market noise. Speculators flooded the market with excess supply, and prices actually started to come down. Now, this has started really a vicious circle, not just among the speculators, but also collectors who have got maybe 50 grand held up in a Rolex collection that you thoroughly enjoy and wear day in, day out, but really started to become concerned with where the market might be going next. So what happened then? dealers like myself started getting phone calls, Instagram messages. I've got a root beer, I'm panicking, can I get rid? What's your best price? And really going around the market to sort of gauge what the best price is and selling. So that then added to that excess supply that the speculators has already flooded the market with. So that then drove prices down even more. We're getting really into sort of the end of March, beginning of April at this point. So what's the moral of the story? If you are an investor of watches, you're somebody who is careful with their investments, you've bought a watch at the right price, you're already sitting on a profit even with the fall in prices, my message to you, and my message really to everybody who is a collector or investor in watches, is hold it. Because all that's going to happen is the market will stabilise. This is not a market crash. This kind of thing has happened before on a much smaller scale. It didn't quite last as long when the pandemic hit back in 2020, but we did see a dip in values and watch prices there. And the only reason for that is because demand dipped. But back then, we hadn't experienced a stratospheric increase in prices and sustained growth over 3 or 4 months, like what we saw from the beginning of 2022 up until March. So there wasn't as many speculators engaging with the market, so there wasn't as much stock being dumped. The bottom line is when the speculators, once the speculators shift that stock that they're panic selling, then we'll go back to normal supply levels in the marketplace, and investors like you or me, collectors, we can start experiencing prices leveling off. And once dealers know where prices settle, that's when we've got a market which will start growing again. So that's my advice to you. If you've got any of those watches, keep them, stop panicking, don't make a big fuss. Dealers like me are getting phone calls, messages every hour. What's your best price for a root beer? What's your best price for a green dial Daytona? And all we're saying basically is we'll take them on consignment, but we don't really want to be putting our money into them now and buying them off you because we don't know where the market will settle. So that's another thing. Don't rush to panic to get rid of a piece which is falling in value at the moment, because quite frankly, most dealers won't take them off you unless they get a really good price. And they're guaranteed to make, I would say, more than the 10% that we usually make, because it's a bigger risk than it was before for them to tie up their capital in one of those particular pieces. All you're doing now, if you try and sell your root beer, etc., is adding flame to the fire. You're adding excess supply to the market, you're driving prices down even further, which is not good for me, it's not good for you with your collection. But there's no need to rush, there's no panic. This is basic economics, and we've said from the beginning here at Beat the Whalers, this cannot sustain. This is rapid growth, which was caused by numerous factors here in the UK. The United Kingdom, the government paid the wages of 70% of the population for a long time, so there was excess disposable income being pumped around the economy, which people were spending, and people were enjoying going out and spending on luxury in general, and also they couldn't go on holiday as much, so there were more savings that were added to that disposable income. Now we find ourselves in a position suddenly where, with the Ukraine crisis and things, cost of energy, fuel prices have gone through the roof, and that's pretty much happened overnight. We've had a budget, a mini budget, which the Chancellor didn't really announce anything major that benefited people's back pockets. So what happened is what usually happens: people switched to saving. So that's been my take for today, guys. I'm Watch Investor Vinny, and this is the channel where we discuss watches as investments. Yes, I know, a dirty word here on YouTube, but stay tuned and all of that. Remember, don't forget to subscribe and like, whatever, all of that jazz, and join me in the next one. Take care.